morning, Manandor. I welcome all of you this wonderful session. I introduce my alumni, Aditya Sattiraju. So he is the alumni of our SRM Institute of Science and Technology, the year of 2020. So he is currently doing the MBA in a Great Lakes Institute of Management in Chennai. So he did during his B so many internships, and he did the academic projects, and he published the paper in a Springer lecture series, and he's taking the more responsibilities, and taking the leadership in a more events. Okay, I welcome Aditya to this wonderful session. So I hand over the session to Aditya. Welcome, Aditya.
Thank you, ma'am. So, I know a lot of people might expect sessions to be technical, especially coming from a computer science department. But I think I'm here to talk about something a little more general, something that is applicable to not only students, but teachers, parents, other viewers, like anyone who's watching the stream now or in the future. So, we've been through a lot, right, in terms of last year itself. So the current normal which we have is very different from something that we had 1 year back. So no one saw the pandemic coming, and once it hit, we didn't have enough time to adjust to it per se, but we did. We did it anyway. So I'd like to talk about a series of causal events. And I'm going to tie it up in from a story. So let's take three events. You have something called a random event. So in this, let's say you have no cause in the past, and then you have no purpose in the future. You're just doing a standalone event just for the sake of doing it. And believe me, we've all done all these three kind of events, and I'll tell you why. The second is the intentional event. So there's no cause in the past that is making us do this, but there's a certain purpose in the future that we want to achieve, and that is why we are doing something. Let's say I have a test tomorrow and I need to study for that. So nothing in my past it has prepared me for this moment enough. Like you can't study enough, but because there is a test, I will do it with a motivation or with a purpose to actually ace the exam or get through the exam. So something like that, an intentional event. If you take another example, let's say you're studying BTech right now, you're in any department, doesn't matter, and 4 years down the line or whenever, you're looking to get a job in the industry or you're trying to pursue your higher studies. So everything that you do in your career now, in your college, is with an intention to get something higher. So there's an intentional event. Then the third one is a causal event. So with this, you have a cause in the past, which is making you do something, but you don't really have a purpose in the future. So you're not doing it to gain something. So something has already happened and you're building upon that. So I'd like to take a few instances in my life as an example, and all of these, mind you, are causal events until a certain point. So I'm probably trying to tell you that all three events are necessary, they're okay, and let's see how we tie them up. So when you're studying in college, whether you're writing your entrance to get in or you're in college and you're studying something, you always have a fight between control. How much control do I have? How much ambiguity is there? And how much of my daily commute or studies or academics, sports, whatever it is, how much of that can I control? And let's face it, all of us have a certain preference to control. Like everyone wants to be in control of their lives. We want to make something out of it. We want to hang on to what we are doing. We don't want someone else to randomly jump in and do it for us. So this brings us to decision making. So before the pandemic, let's assume you had to go to a grocery store to get something, or you wanted to go out with your friends to watch a movie. So the decision making, or what goes on in your head, is very simple. Like, I need to get there and I have these many people to work with, these are the resources that I have, and I'm going straight on. Now post pandemic, we have so much more to be aware of, so much more to be cautious about. So right now, if I were to go to a grocery store and get something, first thing I would think of is, where's my mask? And then, is the grocery store crowded? If so, how crowded? And how much am I willing to risk to actually go and get something? And depending on what the situation is, I might just stay back and decide not to go forward, and maybe I'd order something online, because this is how my control has changed. And so I'm giving up control of being in the store physically getting something, and I'm giving it up to someone else who is willing to risk his or her life to get me something. So I have four different parameters which I can relate this to. So as of now, I'm calling this world a ruptured world because that's how it is post-pandemic. So let's break down the acronym. So you have rapid events. What does this mean? So somewhere in China, someone did something, and it led to a pandemic, and it started spreading globally. So when it actually hit India, the government announced a lockdown. And this was very sudden, and we weren't given enough time to prepare for it. So we just turn on the news, and someone says, this is going to happen. Lock yourselves in, get all the things you need. So it's a very short span of time. So whether it's 4 hours or 4 days, things are rapidly changing, and these things we do not have control over. So how do we react to it? If I had to relate it to BTech students, at one point you imagine you'd be in campus studying, life is normal, everything is normal, and then suddenly you're asked to go back because the cases are rising and it's an unsafe environment. So I'm assuming you're not given much time to react. You have maybe a few days at max, and then you pack something and you just leave. And you're at home, and everything's changed. So your offline teaching has turned into online. You have your Google Meet coming in, you have your Zoom sessions coming in, and with these there are 100 different logistic nightmares that come up. So how do we take the sessions? How do teachers prepare for that? So this is something they haven't been used to in a lot of years, and overnight you're asking them to switch to a whole new platform. So how does the curriculum change? How does the attendance system change? How does your grading take place? How do your exams take place? So there are so many things that we are forced to adapt to, and this is all very rapid. So there's not enough time to react to. Then we have uncertainty, the U of the rupture. So let's take the example of, I think most of you must have heard this story. There's something called the butterfly effect. So let's say a butterfly is flapping its wings somewhere across the world, and the notion is that whenever this happens, there's a cyclone or a thunderstorm on the opposite side. So I'm not sure how this works, but given the amount of belief and popularity that goes into this notion, there's a lot of uncertainty to it. There's a lot of ambiguity. So in our day-to-day lives, so let's take pre-pandemic, and let's say I had to plan a birthday party for one of my friends, which is coming up in a few months. So I'd probably be comfortable doing it. I'd open my Google Calendar, I'd mark a date, and I'd start planning from a few months prior itself. Now I don't think I'll be able to do that because there are way too many uncertain things which are coming up on a day-to-day basis. So if you tell me I had to plan something a month from now, I'd probably say, let's see, let's wait, let's see how things pan out, and then we'll decide. On the contrary, if you ask me something to be done within today or within a few days or a week at max, maybe I'd have much more clarity, and I'd be confident enough to tell you whether I'll be able to do it or whether I won't. So the decision making aspect is very different right now. So given the number of things that are hitting us, the first wave came and we weathered the storm, and then cases started going down, people started becoming more responsible, and then now there's the vaccine which comes out, and people have this uh, let's say a false sense of hope and confidence that everything is suddenly okay, which is not. Yes, the vaccine is out, but have you gotten the shot? Are you taking proper precautions? So people, not everyone, of course, a certain set of people. So all these connections are irrelevant. Am I prepared? Doesn't matter. Vaccine is out, I'll just go start roaming outside. So that's not how it works. So the amount of ambiguity that we have in our lives day to day is too much to actually be able to plan our lives, from a long term perspective. But this is why it becomes all the more important that we try and do it. There's no getting around it, there's no escaping it. So, our coping mechanisms will change, our thought processes will change, and, we will have to adapt. Now we have the paradox. So, while taking decisions, normally, let's say if you're teaching some kid, young kid, you're teaching them how to differentiate between something that is right and something which is wrong. So from our point of view, it's easy, right? It's easy to tell someone that this is right, do it, this is wrong, don't do it. Let's say you're crossing a road, and you have to wait for the stop sign before you have to cross it, and doing before that would be dangerous. So it's easy to differentiate between right and wrong. Now where does the paradox come in? You have two right things and you have to pick between one, or you have two wrong things and you have to pick between one. So that's when your capabilities as a leader come forward. And these are forcing you into situations where your back is against the wall and you have to make a choice. And how you do it is up to you. So let's take the same example. If you take the lockdown, I'm pretty sure the government had an option of enforcing the lockdown within 4 hours. They just get the news, they broadcast it, and they say 4 hours from now the army is going to step in. No one's allowed to step outside. That would create a lot of panic, which it did, no doubt about that. On the other hand, they had the option of giving us a few days of time, let's say 3, 4 days, and they're going to tell us, you have so many hours to work with, get all the necessary goods that you need, supplies. And then from this day forth, I'm going to, enforce a lockdown, and post that you're not allowed to come out. There's a difference, right? Given the number of hours, whether it's 4 hours or 72 hours or 100 and something, you have more time to work with, which means you have more time to gather your thoughts, plan your future accordingly, and then act upon. So instead of taking impulsive decisions, it's important to stay calm and think through what you're doing. So that's where the paradox comes in. And if you are making these decisions for yourself in terms of your academics or in terms of your household, family, or whether you're traveling from one place to another and you have to decide your dates. So there's a lot of different parameters that come in which are going to shape the way you make your decision, right? Then you have what I called a very tangled structure right now. So pre-pandemic, you had different organizations, different corporates, startups, all that stuff, and they had a very calm and genuine flow which was going on. They were minding about their own business, and the employees go work, they come back. Students go to college, they come back. So they didn't really have much to stop and think about. Nothing really pressing. But if you compare that to now, the amount of things that are inhibiting them from doing something, from taking a decision. For example, let's say I have an internship and my company has to decide whether they want to call me offline or whether they want me to sit at home and work for them online. The same with you guys. You are probably sitting at home watching this recording, and at some point maybe your classes are going to be online, and your college has to take a call whether to ask you guys to come over or just stay safe and stay where you are. So the number of tanglements that are in our lives, I think it's important we are patient enough to start and untangle them, piece by piece. So if you rush into something, we are undoubtedly going to mess it up, and that's not what we want, right? So patience comes in. So let me walk you through a few principles of economics and finance. So there's something called the time value of money. So if you ever had a talk with your parents or grandparents, I'm sure they would have told you stories about how in their time they used to go watch a movie for $10 or $5, and how they used to get a can of soda or Coke or I think Gold Spot. There was one drink which was very popular back then. So they'd probably quote you bizarre prices such as 50 paisa, 1 rupee, 2 rupees. And if you think of it now, you're like, okay, what is happening? I buy a bottle of Coke for 35 to 40 rupees. And then here I have someone telling me it costed them one single rupee. What does this mean? The value of money is always changing. And what you have today is not going to remain the same thing tomorrow. And this happens on a second to second basis. I'm not even telling you that the value is going to stay the same today and tomorrow. So it's not exact. So, for example, if you go on Google and if you try to figure out what the value of $1 is in terms of rupees, you may find one answer today, you might find one answer tomorrow. And the value constantly keeps changing. So, how is this effective? And what am I trying to draw from it? So, in our strategy class, we were given one exercise, which I'm going to share with you. So, I'm giving you $5, which is about 350, 400 rupees right now. And then I'm giving you 2 hours. And after that 2 hours, you have 3 minutes to make a presentation. And your task is to basically maximize your revenue in this time period. So you have $5, you have 2 hours and 3 minutes of presentation. So what do you do with it? That was basically the exercise we were given, and we were graded upon this. So at the end of the session, when everything was discussed and post that, I found 3 sets of people that came up. The first set, they are caught up in the first parameter. So they say, okay, I have $5. This is the money which I can work with. So they had amazing plans of buying a certain number of eggs in bulk and selling them, or they were going to go to car washes and you know uh, hire someone to wash n number of cars in the given period with the $5. And the more ideas that they come, each of these is building up on how do I have limited resources and how do I build up on that. Okay, so let's take the second parameter now. The second set of people considered both the $5 and the 2 hours. So they went to different, hypothetically, went to different restaurant chains, and they said, "I'm gonna, order these many bookings. I'm gonna make so and so reservations within, the money that I have. So let's say each reservation costs you $1. You're making 5 reservations, and over the span of 2 hours, you are selling these reservations to customers at a premium. That means you're selling it at a higher price than what you bought it. So I'm spending $5 on reservations. And given rush hour, so assuming these restaurants are jam packed, and there's a lot of lot of buzz around and a lot of people coming in. Let's say I sell each of these reservations at $5 a piece. So my initial seed money is $5, and at the end I'm making $25, which is $20 of profit. This is how the second set of people worked. They said, okay, we have 2 hours, and I'm going to allocate so much amount of time for the seed money for talking to restaurants. And then the next hour, hour and a half, I'm going to start selling these reservations and make a money out of it. Right. This was not bad. And it was, in my opinion, much better than selling eggs or something like that. But then there was a third set of people who took into account that I have a 3-minute presentation. And, I'm going to make use of this to maximize my revenue. So the way they changed the question was, I have 2 hours to think of a way to maximize my revenue by giving a 3-minute presentation. So in this set, what people did was they completely ignored the $5 given to them. So from their perspective, they said we are starting off from $0. Our budget is non-existent, and we have the time of 2 hours, and then we have the presentation time of 3 minutes, and we have to do something, based out of this. So you see the difference in risk factor, where the first two sets of people considered the amount and they said we have this much to work with. Whereas the third set of people are coming in and they are going all in. So they're saying we have no money, we're not going to rely on any of that. So what did these guys do? They said we have 10 different corporates, 10 different MNCs who are willing to come to our campus to actually hire students. So what do I do with these 3 minutes? I outsource these 3 minutes to the companies so they can pay me so that they can come and pitch and make their pitch and hire whatever students they want. So you see the difference in these ideas. We're taking $5 and buying eggs and selling them, and we are going to restaurants and making the reservations and selling them at a premium. To the third case where we are not relying on money at all, and we are basically using all the resources we have to sell it to someone at a much higher price. So let's say companies are going to come and pick up, let's say 5 students, and to do this they obviously have to pay some fee amount to the college, actually gain permission to come and make their pitch and all of that stuff. So I am very easily making around $500 by just inviting corporates and telling them you have 3 minutes to make the pitch, do it. So am I doing work? Yes, in the background. Am I selling myself? Not really. I'm getting someone else to do something awesome, which is beneficial to others. And the way I maximize my revenue is amazing. It's different. So this is what I mean by time value of money. And when I say you have resources in front of you, you are at a stage where you have to consider everything. You have to consider all possibilities. You can't just sit back and focus on the $5 and say this is all I have to work with. Incorrect. You have time, you have resources, and you have your thought process. And the most amazing aspect of BTech is you get to interact with hundreds and thousands of students who are coming from different backgrounds, and they have different perspectives in life. They have different outlooks. So if I give you a problem to solve, you will probably do it in one way. Your friend will take a different approach. Your faculty is going to take a different approach. Maybe you'll find a completely different theory in the library. So you guys need to reach out to people. You guys need to talk. You guys need to mingle. Like, I know it's difficult, staying online and going through all of this, but that makes it all the more important, because once you get out of this phase and assume you're doing your higher studies or recruitment or whatever it is, setting up your own business, people are going to question you. What did you do with your time? What did you do with the resources that you have? And what have you accomplished? Even if you didn't, what did you do with it? So you need an answer, right? So this is not a time where you can sit back and chill at home and just, log into sessions and walk out. I'm sorry, but that's not how it's going to work. You can do that. You're very free to do it, but it's not going to be productive. And you have much more important things to look at. So, okay, from here, let me take a slightly different angle and try to get you to think in an abstract manner. So, the previous example that I gave you, there were three scenarios or three sets of people, the way I described, where you had to come up with an idea, you had to come up with a market plan as to, how I can make money. So, what are you doing here? You have a set of things that you can work with, and you're creating a story basically, and you're not sure what is going to be in the story. Maybe you're making up at the point, on the go, but you are essentially thinking of something that is not there. You're visualizing something that is not present in front of you. And in very simple terms, that's what abstract thinking is. So look at it this way. um, let's say you're on your roof at night and you're staring at the sky, and you see multiple stars, and maybe you like stargazing, maybe you don't. Let's just assume you're sitting there and looking at all of them. Now let me take two very specific stars. You have, let's say, two stars in the sky, and Proxima. I'm sorry, I'm not able to remember the name, so I'm just going to jog ahead. So, what does it mean when you see stars? So, stars are hot balls of fire, gases, blah blah blah. They're situated at X number of light years away from Earth. Now, let me close in on the word light years. What do you mean by this? Light years is essentially the distance. And if I were to explain it to you, if I say a star is 400 light years away from Earth, it means that light needs 400 years to, actually travel to your eye. So if the light is bouncing off the planet, off the star, it takes X number of light years to reach you. Now you're looking at three, four stars. And let's assume each of these stars is located at a different distance. So I have one star at 2 million light years away. I have another star at 4 million light years away. So what does this mean? One, I am seeing the light in front of me at the same time. This is relative. My present, I am seeing two stars in the sky, four stars in the sky, all at the same time. But what is actually happening? The light from one star is taking 2 million years to travel. The light from the other star is taking 4 million years to travel, which means the light that I'm seeing right now is not from the same time. I'm looking at, a fragmented canvas in the sky. I'm looking at different versions in the past, essentially. And this is something that made me think about time travel, and I was honestly intrigued by it. So the different pieces of light that you see are not emerging from the same time. They're from different points in the past, and you're seeing them all together at once. So this is where Einstein's theory of relativity comes in, and I think this is something you should think about before I ruin it any further. So I call it a fragmented mosaic in the night sky. It's a cheesy name, but let's just run with it. Okay. So another tangent when we talk about relativity. So there's a book that I read, which is called *Sapiens*. It's written by Yuval Noah Harari, I think. So this person has written multiple books, and I think he's a professor in Oxford. So this is one thing which this book, caught my attention. So he starts off by discussing about how animals and primates and monkeys in specific were, like how people functioned, how animal functioned, a few million years ago before evolution actually took a leap. So there are very few animals which have a higher thinking capacities. And if you take the chimpanzees or monkeys, for example, these guys were the only species which could actually think abstractly. And by this, I mean think of something that is not there, visualize something that is not there. And how did they do this? So monkeys used to stay in herds, stay in a group, in trees, whatever. And every group has some sort of a chain of command. So there's a leader, there's some other monkey who takes care of scouting of food, and some other monkey who takes care of security and all that stuff. So they used to have mock drills where a monkey used to give off alarms or sirens to let the rest of the herd know that there's danger approaching. And the herd would obviously move from their place and they would run, and they would, just shift to get away from danger. Now, two aspects. One, when this is actually happening, when they spot a predator and they do this, that is one part of it. But abstract thinking forced them to create a mock drill, which means there was no danger. They thought of it by themselves. And then, this is affecting the entire community. So let's take the same abstract thinking and, bring it down to, a few years down the line, few million years down the line. Here we have something called a collective story. So let's say you're in the Viking era and you're just part of the herd, and you're moving from one place to another to expand your kingdom, or just raid other villages, something like that. So what used to happen was, when a group of Vikings go from a place to another, they come across a new set of people. They have nothing to do with them. They don't know who these people are. So their first instinct is, I need food, I need gold, or I need money. I need whatever valuables or treasure that these people have hoarded, because I'm raiding their village. So they destroy everything, they capture people, they either kill or they take them under slavery. And then they just hijack everything and bring those goods back to their village. And that was supposed to be a victory day for them. Now, a collective story comes in within each village. So yes, the Vikings have gone somewhere else, they've raided, they've come back. So the potential harm that is happening is only between the two sets of villages. They are not doing anything among themselves. So they actually respect each other enough to, at least let them stay alive. So it's the same thing as saying, I am part of a village, I'm part of a society, and I'm living with other people. So there is something that is stopping me from attacking my neighbor, that's stopping me from, having a confrontation with someone next to me, whatever. So what is it that, ties us together? This is something that people, humans, have capitalized on a lot. So this is basically the emergence of kingdoms. It's the emergence of, the whole power structure, the control, the ruling aspect of it. So if a king were to expand his lands, he needs something to hold the people in. So if the people defect, the king doesn't really have anything to control. So he's going to say something like, I'm going to give you protection, I'm going to give you food, I'm going to give you rations, I'm going to protect you from someone else. So, whatever incentives that he gives us, we listen. People listen and they accept it. So they accept their ruler for, whatever he's giving them. It's the same logic as to, governments right now. So they're going to tell you, we're going to build better roads, we're going to take care of the municipality, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. A lot of incentives. And, people either agree to it or they don't. And respectively, they go vote for whomever they want. So it's the same collective story that, you are being given. And it's your choice whether you want to believe it or not. So the concept of a nation, this is how it emerges. So if you actually go between India, Pakistan, or India, China, there is land, there are mountains, there's seas, there's land. So what is telling you that this portion is mine and that portion is yours? You can draw a line in the sand and say, this is mine, that is yours. That person is going to come erase the line, draw a new line. So physical boundaries, physical geographies, they can be manipulated a lot. But what does it mean when you actually say you're part of something bigger than yourself? You're part of a nation. You're part of SRM University. You're part of the computer science department, or whatever it is. There's a common story that is holding you in place. And the story is only working because you believe in it. That's how, that's how control starts. So if I tell you a story and you don't agree to it, you won't listen to me and I won't gain the traction that I've been looking for. But if I tell you something and, if let's say I start a cut and there's 10, 20 people who actually listen to me and say, okay, yes, this person is making sense. So I have a group of 10, 20 followers who actually listen to what I say. And just because they believe in me, I have some value. The same goes. So I believe that my institute is very good. And I believe that the education that I received was awesome. And I respect it. Therefore, it has value. So if I were to turn around and say, no, I'm not going for this, I have learned nothing in the past, and I don't consider anything of it, the value goes down. And you can see live examples of this in Zimbabwe, for example. So this was a couple decades back, where there was a huge inflation of money that happened. So you have the Zimbabwean currency, and people thought that printing more money, printing more dollars, printing more sheets of paper would actually increase the value of money. Turns out, ironically, it didn't work out. That's not how it works. So if I say I have a printing machine and right now I have 100 rupees, which is accepted by everyone. So the global economy acknowledges the existence of these 100 rupees. So if I tell them I'm going to get a printing machine and just print a couple more, hundreds and thousands of rupees, do I give value to them? No. I'm the only person doing this, and the global economy doesn't believe in it. So what does it do? I have a lot more, number of notes. The value of currency is decreasing. I have more notes, but the value is not the same. So my 100 rupees is probably decreasing to 10 or whatever. This is why in that country we have seen notes of 1 lakh being printed, 10 lakh being printed. And just the cost of a loaf of bread was so ridiculous that people didn't have money to pay for it. And this is how the economy crashed. And no one realized until a long time that, look, we are going wrong. Printing money is not going to solve our problems. So what am I telling here? Money is the biggest story that people have created, and it works. The beauty of it is that it works. So I do miss the good old barter system where I would give you a sheep and you would give me a pair of shoes, or I would give you a chicken and you would give me two goats, or whatever, however the system worked. It was very simple, but the drawback of it is it's not fair. So how do you make something fair, out of nothing? You can't, but you still try to do it. That's where the concept of money came. So if you take, let's say, one country is raiding another country, and you're basically pillaging, looting, whatever. So this country is gonna go, let's say, Iran and the U.S. embassy. So there were attacks, and these guys went and they destroyed everything. They set things on fire. They killed people. They blew up buildings. The one thing they didn't touch was the money inside the vault, because these guys believed that the American dollar has a value, and they believed in that collective story that money has value. So they destroyed everything except these notes, and then they take it back, and then they use it for whatever purposes. But the fact remains that the collective story exists. Now we've seen nations, we've seen villages, we've seen money, and on a little more controversial side, religion is the same thing. It ties people together for whatever common purpose you believe in. So I'm not going to dive in further, but now you get what a collective story is. It's essentially abstract thinking. And it is the same thing that gives value to a product where none exists. Right. So let me draw another tangent and take you to communication. How do we tie communication to abstract thinking? So if you have an idea, let's say you're working on a project and you have 4 people in your team, and you're given a task to do, and you're trying to figure out, you bounce ideas off of each other, you have something, and something clicks and you want to go forward with that. Now you have two options. You can either go ahead, finish the entire project by yourself, which happens, trust me, more often than not, this is what happens. But you also have the option of working in your group with the remaining 3 or 4 people, and you get to decide on a common approach. And you're going to say, we're going to brainstorm, we're going to bounce ideas, and we're going to come to a common agreement so that this is what we pitch. And the fourth years, if you're listening, so this is what happens in your major project. I know you have groups of 3 or 4 people, 2 or 3 people, whatever it is, and I know some people might end up piggyback riding on another. And okay, so even if you do that, one thing you have to keep in mind is, once you finish your project, you need to spread the same information. You need to share the information among your group members so everyone knows exactly what's going on. You can't be like, I'm the person doing all the mechanical part, I'm the person doing all the coding part, and I'm the person making only presentations and I'm nothing else. That's not how it works. If you do that and you end up in your review, you're gonna flunk, trust me. So rule number one, don't do it. Rule number two, even if you do it, be smart about it. At least make sure that you know what's going on and you're not blank. So how do you give importance to communication? Let me give you an example of an armored truck. So let's say this is in the army, and assume you are the captain or the major, and people are reporting to you. And you are sitting in your posting, and you have an armored truck which is carrying ammunition, weapons, and they're coming back. So right from when the armored truck enters the borders, there are 4 to 5 different checkposts that this truck has to cross before it actually reaches you. And at every checkpost, as signal of confirmation, the person near the checkpost is going to call you up and he's going to tell you the truck has passed so and so thing. So let's say you've worked hard, you've had a tough day, and you're retiring for the night, and you're very tired, you're very sleepy, and let's say a truck is entering right now. So if you were to get a call, or someone was to contact you via radio 4 to 5 times telling you the same thing, the truck has come, the truck has come, it is very natural of you to get agitated. It's very natural of you to feel irritated. You'll probably be like, stop telling me. I know this is happening. It's normal. It's human behavior to do that. But army personnel are specifically trained to not feel this way. They are trained to not react to this way. Now I'll tell you the importance of each of these five checkposts. So once the truck enters, the border, initial border, the first checkpost gives you a signal, and they say, okay, the truck has come, it has crossed the border, and it's moving along. So now the truck is there. Then you have the second checkpost, which is confirming that the vehicle is in proper condition, which is confirming that the army personnel are inside, no one is missing, that the truck is still on course and it is carrying so. That's the second one. Now the third one will probably check the tires, or they're going to check any dents. They're going to check if the ammunition is still there or not, if anything is missing. So each of these checkposts have a very specific task in hand, and they're going to carry it out. So your job is to make sure that you follow this and you understand why it is being done. So if you were a trained officer and this actually happens, so if they get the first call saying, the truck has entered, and if they have no communication for the next 15 to 20 minutes, they will wake up from their sleep because they know something is missing, something is wrong. And this is, it's in them, it's trained in them. And they know that they have to function this way because they have a sense of responsibility, a sense of duty. So everything has a purpose. So now in this world, post-pandemic scenario, why is communication so important? Pre-pandemic, if you say you're a manager and you're reporting to someone higher up and you have people working under you, communication comes in where you have to relay messages, you have to relay information from one point to the other. So let's say the strategy of the company comes from top to down, and then the information flow happens the other way around, bottom to top. So it's your job to make sure that there's no Japanese whisper going on, Chinese whisper, whatever the game is. So it's essentially, if some person tells you one thing, you're supposed to convey the exact information to the other person. You're not supposed to dilute it. You're not supposed to change it, mix it. So right now, there's no physical contact. Everyone is sitting at home, you're taking your classes at home, and the only communication you have is either through your Zoom meetings or your WhatsApp chats, or whatever it is. So it becomes all the more important for you guys to not change the information. So the importance of communication comes in. So if someone is relaying a certain XYZ to you, it's your job, your duty to convey the exact same thing to someone else. And at the end of the day, if those two people get on a call and you start discussing things, there should not be any information disparity or confusion. Everything has to be at the same point. Because trust me, if this does not happen, there is going to be chaos, there's going to be anarchy, it's not going to be pleasant. And given the situation we're in, it's that much more important that we give importance to it. So let's go back to abstract thinking, and I'll tell you how people look at different things. So if you take the Olympics, there used to be something called a high jump. The thing is still there, the sport is still there. So until the year 1968, so there was a pole and you had to jump over it. So what people did essentially was take a run up and they jump over it. So your legs come first and then your body follows. So it's a pretty straight jump. Now in 1968, there was this person called Fosbury who changed the way to do it. So his ideas were a little innovative. So instead of jumping straight, he took the leap and then he jumped sideways, which meant his head crossed the pole first, then his body came, and then the legs came at last. So it's the exact opposite of what people had been doing so far. And trust me, the simple innovation like this revolutionized the sport till date. So now, right now, if you look at the next Olympics, almost 85 to 90% of the participants are going to use the Fosbury flip. That's what they call it. So they're going to jump sideways with their head first. No one is going to jump with their legs first, follow the old trend, because this is the new method that has been found by this person, which has broken so many records. So every world record that has been broken ever since 1968 has been done using this Fosbury flip. So how did he think of it? So before 1968, what used to happen was there is a place to run. I mean, you have the platform, and after you make the jump, you basically have a sand pit where you land. So you jump with your legs first, and the rest of your body follows. So you're vertical, you're not horizontal, and then you land in the sand pit. So when you're doing this, you jump vertically because you want to land on your feet. So if you land on any other part of your body, it's going to get hurt, and you don't want that. What this person noticed was this trend changed. The sandpit slowly converted into foam mattresses. So they were more soft, they were softer, they were more reliable, and they were safer. So if you took a jump and this person did it sideways, which means his head landed first, he was confident enough that the mattress, the padding would actually keep him safe. So this is what I'm trying to convey when I say be mindful of your surroundings, be mindful of the resources which you possess. It might be a very simple thing that you normally wouldn't notice, but this time right now is post pandemic. I keep using it a lot. This is when you have to be mindful of exactly what you have in front of you and what's the best that you can make of it. Right. So why did this person, choose to do the flip? It's because he was in a psychologically safe environment for him. Now, this term, what does it mean? Psychologically safe environment. Let's take the example of a game called the Marshmallow Tower. So, this is a game which has been designed by scientists, which is applied to everyone: students, doctors, MBA graduates, engineering students, architects, design thinkers, everyone. So, what you have is you have 20 ice cream sticks or whatever sticks, doesn't matter. And you have a marshmallow, and you are put in groups of 5 to 8 people or sometimes even 10 people. Your task is to work together to build the highest tower, which is stable. So it's not supposed to fall. So you have sticks, you have 20 sticks, limited resource. You have duct tape, let's say even that is limited resource, and you have a marshmallow. This is basically your flag which you keep on the top to inaugurate your whole tower. Statistically, MBA students were the worst performers for this activity, this game. So turns out, so I'm an MBA student, and it saddens me to say this, but we had the same exercise, and I'll tell you why this happens and why we are the worst performers. So we came in last. So the second best people are essentially the architects, people who do structural engineering or mechanical engineering, or actually designers. So these guys, it's a good thing because these are the guys designing our equipment, right? They're building our infrastructure, and I mean, I think it's a relief that they're actually doing well at this game, whatever. So these guys are the second best. Now, the group of people, the set of people who are the best, and they topped the innovation charts, they topped the design thinking charts. These group of people who actually won the whole thing are kindergarten children. Why and how? So this is something that intrigued me at start, so I wanted to share. So when you get into a corporate life structure, or let's say you are in engineering, and even that to an extent is a very professional environment to be in. So you have a lot of restrictions around you. So you are going to be mindful of what is this person going to think? What is this person going to think? How is my action going to affect something else? So if I were to make a presentation, how would my faculty react to it? How would the panel react to it? And how would my own team members react to it? So there's a lot of restrictions on your mind, and it prohibits you from thinking freely. And MBA students, so now you must have understood why we came in last, and we are technically the worst performers in this aspect, because we do have a lot of things to be wary about. We have a lot of things to be wary about in terms of presentation, in terms of relevance, in terms of importance, and actual acceptance. So if you take the kindergarten children, these little kids had nothing to be worried about. So one person is going pulling another person's shirt, and the other person is just grabbing the stick from someone else's hand. So they have nothing to be scared about. They have nothing stopping them from innovating and thinking in a creative manner. So if they say I want to do something, they're going to go ahead and do it. And this is what is required in our age. So a psychologically safe environment is a place where you are able to do whatever you want. You're able to implement your ideas, your thoughts. You're able to communicate them in a stress-free environment. You're not worried about what's going to happen. You are bindas chilling at home, doing everything that you want. I think it's time that all the corporates and all the professional working bodies need to implement at least a certain aspect of this, because in the fractured world that we live in, we need to break a few rules to actually get things going. So the paradigms which were in place before the pandemic are not going to work anymore. They're obviously going to change. And this is all the more reason we need to break a few rules and create new structures, new organizations. And this is something I want you guys to keep in mind, because when you graduate, when you get into the industry, you guys are going to be leading your companies. You're going to be the guys doing work. So you need to develop the abstract thinking, you need to develop the sense of confidence and comfort when you're doing something instead of restricting yourself. And yes, you need to be wary of a lot of things, but don't let that stop you, right? So this is where I came up with a funda called two up, two down. So this is a policy that I gave as a presentation before, and I'm trying to do the same to you. So what this means is every person, no matter where you're standing, whether in a professional environment or personal environment, at home, at school, college, work, whatever it is, you always need to keep in mind the two up and two down. So with respect to where you're standing, you need to understand what uh, what the job requirements are of one level above you. So let's say you're an employee, you need to be sure, you need to understand what goes on in the manager's head. You need to understand what their strategies are, what their plan of action is, what their thought process is, and what the importance of your whole project, is. So two things: you need clarity, like you need to be 100% sure that this is what is happening, and you need the capability of doing the same thing by yourself. So if tomorrow something happens, something negative happens, and you are required to carry out those tasks of those above you, you need to be able to do it, no questions asked. And the same thing goes for the one level below you. So you need to understand, so if you're a manager, you need to understand what your employees are doing, what their task is, and you need to, so the clarity part is covered, and you need to be able to do it by yourself. So if tomorrow this person takes a leave and goes, I should be in a position to cover the entire work done. So how do I connect it on a more personal level? So we know the pandemic is has hit, and we're all wading through it. How many of your families have actually weathered the storm? Yes, all of them have, hopefully. But what I'm trying to say is, how many of them have actually prepared you as a son or daughter in practically? So in my case, in my example, 6 months through the pandemic, and everyone's the panic is going, and whatever is progressing is going on. So my dad comes to me and shares with me all the financial documents of our family, all the assets that we have, or all the bank credentials, and phone passwords, laptop passwords, insurance details. And he even went to the length to actually give me contacts of people in his office whom I could contact if something, God forbid, were to happen to him. So, how many of us have actually been prepared for that? So, this is not me trying to say that something will happen. Please be prepared. That's not the intention. It's like, if something were to happen, how prepared are you? So, so this is ambiguity, right? How do you deal with ambiguity? You can't foresee everything that's going to happen. But if something does happen, how do you react to it? Are you prepared? Yes or no? And this is not something that you learn overnight. This is not something that someone can teach you out of a textbook, or a faculty gives you a lecture and you listen to it. That's not how it works. So from a day-to-day basis, you need to start inculcating growing comfortable with ambiguity. Now, this is something that I was very against, and I found it very annoying, because I am not, as a person, I'm not comfortable with things which, I don't have full control on. So now we're going full circle. We're going back to the start where I spoke to you about control and decision making. So if there is something which has variables that I do not know of, that I don't have control about, it doesn't make me feel safe. But I need to understand that this is how things are, this is how life is, and this is what dealing with ambiguity means. It's okay. So if you're an overthinker, create backup plans. Just think of situations that could happen and try to be prepared for it. Try to mentally prepare yourself for what could come. And if you've never done it before, there's a start for everything. So let's say you're studying right now, and so think of an one parallel where you could actually be called to the universities and you're forced to give your exams online. Be prepared for that. On the other hand, if the condition is still getting worse and it's not getting any better, and let's say you're asked to give your examinations online, you need to be prepared for that. So you don't know what's coming. And right now, I know there's a lot of fear in students about getting jobs, job opportunities. How will my placements be? Will the 100% placement still hold? Is it guaranteed? No, absolutely not. It's not guaranteed. Yes, the college, the institute will do everything in its power to actually get corporates to come to you. But at the end, you are taking the interview. You are the person sitting there selling yourself in a way. You're the person trying for the job. So yes, with the amount of budget cuts that have been going on in the industry, if a company a few years back took like 200 to 300 people, maybe right now it's going to cut it down to 100, which makes the competition increase. It's all the more tougher for you guys to get through. And so now you need to start thinking about what is it that separates me, that distinguishes me from someone else. It's okay. I'm not using the word different because it comes off in a negative light. So I'm saying you need to have something that sets you apart from your peer. So if you're a computer science student, the underlying assumption is all of you guys know how to code. All of you guys need to know how algorithms work and all that stuff. So once you establish that yes, I am a programmer, what now? Everyone is. I have 1,000 different people sitting next to me who are the same, caliber. Maybe some are up, some are down. That's okay. But what do I have beyond that that can actually set me apart? So, are you a storyteller? Are you a design thinker? Is your abstract thinking good? Or, whatever it is, you guys need to sit and figure out for yourself. So, this is basically introspection. What are you good at? What are you not good at? What are your strengths? And if you reach a point where you decide that I'm not able to think of anything, do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. Based on this, come up with something. Because you guys need to, differentiate yourself from others. Again, so if I were to sum it up, I'd say abstract thinking, creativity. Don't let people suppress you. Just be yourself and don't stop for anything. Because right now, that is something that we need. And okay, again, going back to ambiguity, you need to be able to deal with that. Resource optimization, opportunity cost. These are some things that this is probably the last topic I'm going to talk about. So, given the amount of resources that you have, and so you need to plan. So if you're given a task and you have limited resources, you need to be able to use it efficiently so you finish everything that you're doing now. Here is the question: do you want something to be left over? Do you want a part of your resources to be there beside you as supplementaries for tomorrow's events? In which case, you will have to rethink your entire strategy and optimize your resources so that you use a part of it for the task right now and then you save the rest for later. Now, this changes from person to person and it's different. It's not necessary, but it's just the way some people think. Are you prepared or not? And if you want to be prepared, to what lengths are you willing to go to actually achieve that? And once you do this, once you understand your comfort level and your risk appetite, when you come to resource optimization, you come to opportunity cost. So if I'm doing this, if I'm taking one course of action, what am I losing out? So in my case, I chose not to sit for placements and I chose to pursue my higher studies. So in order to prepare for my entrances, I had to forego my preparation for my uh, placement studies. So this was a risk. And was this a calculated risk? Sort of. So I was banking on the fact that I would be good enough to get through something. So my example, I would not recommend this for everyone because I didn't have any backup as to what would happen if I don't cut it. So this is something that you guys need to be wary about. And in my case, my risk appetite is a little high, so I went for it. So if you were to pick a more stable route, like a few of my friends did, maybe you would step into the placements and you'd sit for companies. You wouldn't try extremely hard, but you'd be prepared enough, you'd be groomed enough, and you try for whatever high studies you want in parallel. If it works for you, it works. But for some people, you might think that keeping two legs in two different boats is dangerous. Yes, I understand your thought process, and do whatever you want to. So this is where passion versus practicality is also something that comes in. So in my case, let's see, I was someone who wanted to pursue arts and literature after my 10th, and clearly it did not happen. So, and then I started thinking about it through and through. So past 10th, past 12th, even UG. So even to this date, it sort of stings me that I didn't get to do what I really, really wanted to. But then again, given how the pandemic has hit us and given how the industries are functioning, and given how India as a country itself is, a majority of it is either farming, which is agriculture, or, it's in the service sector. So given the opportunities that I had, at this point, a part of me feels slightly relieved that, I didn't run behind my passion completely. And yes, I stuck to practicality. But this doesn't mean that I have to stop running behind my passion, forever. So this is something that I've been able to convert into a hobby. So if you guys have something like arts or music or literature, drawing, whatever it is, and if for better or worse you're stuck in the place you are and you are forced to continue, don't stop doing it, because yes, you need to be practical, and it's you will thank yourself later for sticking to the past. But at the same time, if you let go of your passion, the practical life that you're living becomes toxic for you. And this is something, again, I've seen a lot of people, and it's not advisable. So no matter what, try to always keep time for yourself, keep a certain slot aside, and do what you love doing. So everyone needs a chill out session, or a method of coping mechanism, and this is undervalued a lot. And if you go see people around you, like right now, if you were in campus, you'd see 100 people around you dealing with things in different manners. One person would take his shirt off and start singing, washroom singers. Why not? One person would start jogging early in the morning, 3:34. One person would probably wait for rain to pour down and just enjoy that. Or maybe you're someone who sips tea or coffee, or whatever it is that drives you, whatever it is that gets you stable. You need to identify your coping mechanism and really hone it. Because trust me, the next coming years, you're going to be facing a lot of unpleasant situations, a lot of times when you'll be forced to work under pressure with different people, different aspects, different tasks. You might not be comfortable doing all of it, but you have to. You don't really have a choice. And whenever you feel stressed out, or when you're panicking, or whatever it is, you need a method to basically calm you down, ground yourself, and reassure yourself that everything is fine. And you need to reset your cycle basically. And once you do that, you're obviously going to go back to your daily rigorous life. So on that note, I think I'm gonna end my talk by saying a series of causal events. It's just that. So there is a cause in the past that has, forced me to do something, that has led me to do something. Do I think about the future? Absolutely. And what is my outtake now? So I'm at a stage where I'm trying to mix a causal event with an intentional event. So yes, something has led me here, and I need something in the future, which is why I'm going to take help of what I have done in the past. I'm going to leverage my past to, go forth in the future. So I think on that note, I'm going to stop here. And I think 3 minutes to being done. So thank you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you, ma'am.
First, once again, thank you for accepting our invite.
It's my privilege, ma'am.
Yes, and you gave a very clear picture about the series of causal event. So I hope that this is a very wonderful session to our students, and as well as is very informative. And we are expecting your continuous support with us, Aditya. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, ma'am. Looking forward to many more such events. So
Yes, sure.
let's see.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.